Well, welcome to the Aging Boomers. I'm your host, Frank Sampson, where we discuss so many of the issues facing boomers, their parents, and what, of course, we know is an aging population. I want to just thank everybody so much for all their support. Many of you have gone on to iTunes, and I hope more of you will, and downloading and subscribing to the shows. Rating them, giving us input, which has been great, and so we appreciate all your support. You could also get the shows by downloading it on your iPhone or Android phone. Just type in Aging Boomers in your search. It will come up, and just download it, and you'll get all the shows. And we got a great guest today, but before I introduce him, I want to let everybody know that today's show is sponsored by ElderCareResourcesUSA.com. Information for an aging world. Enjoy informative articles. You can watch videos, download helpful guides, and learn from nationally recognized experts and connect with key local providers. So you can go to ElderCareResourcesUSA.com to get more information. If you're out on the West Coast, which we get a lot of listeners in the West Coast, you can go to ECRBayArea.com, ECRSacramento.com, or ECRLosAngeles.com, and get a lot of good information from local providers here in our area. Speaking about our area, I have with us not only a wonderful professional in his field, but also a good friend. So I'm thrilled. I always like bringing friends on as well that are in the industry. His name is Sanford Horowitz. He is a plaintiff's attorney in Sonoma Valley, and for 20 years has concentrated almost all of his practice on elder abuse and neglect litigation. Select medical malpractice, personal injury, and other cases are also pursued. Mr. Horowitz was lead trial counsel and co-appellate counsel in the landmark elder abuse case Delaney versus Baker, and has been an active participant as a moderator and speaker in many seminars in California. Mr. Horowitz handled a case that was featured in the Citizens Coalition for Nursing Home Reform publication, The Faces of Neglect, which was hand-delivered to members of Congress to aid in the congressional briefing in the area of elder abuse and medical malpractice. Mr. Horowitz is a graduate of Tulane University and University of San Francisco School of Law. And he'll tell you how you could, get more information on him, which is HorowitzElderLaw.com. We'll repeat that before the end of the show. So I'm going to call you Sandy, if that's okay, since we're friends. So,
Good morning, Frank.
Mr. Horowitz seems a little.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, seems a little formal for me talking to you. So, yeah, Sandy, great to have you on the show on Aging Boomers. And I know that when I was just doing the radio show, I've had you on in the past, and great to have you back. And we're talking about. It's a subject matter that I think is just so important, and it was really a thought of yours to talk about because you deal with this each and every day in your professional career, but, you've gone through it personally, too, in dealing with not only nursing hospitals and assisted living communities and smaller care homes. You've gone through it both professionally and personally, and that's what we want to talk about. On the show we've had guests on before to talk about assisted living or nursing and how to make the right selection and we've done shows like that, which has been great. We've gotten a lot of good input, but we're going to take it to that next step right now. All right, you made that decision. The family has made that decision, and I guess how to best deal with issues that occur as a loved one, like a parent, ages, and how to best deal with the staff there. So tell me, just give me your thoughts on that. I know there's a lot of different areas to cover, but tell me your thoughts. Did I lose you? All right, we're gonna get him back right now. All that discussion, and so hang on just 1 second.
Hello, Frank.
Hey, we got you back. When did I lose you?
I think it was us. I don't know what's going on.
That's
I'm
okay.
so sorry.
Not
what do
a
you
problem.
do? Just rewind to the spot?
Yeah, not a problem. We're just we're continuing on here, so not a problem at all, Sandy.
Hey, I apologize. Here I am.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So let me. What I was saying, I don't have to repeat the whole thing, but because I don't know exactly where we got cut off. But I was just telling our listeners that you deal with this professionally on an everyday basis and have gone through it yourself personally, and we want to talk about how people who are dealing with family members or other loved ones in long-term care facilities, whether it be nursing or assisted living or smaller care homes, the best way to go about that, just from a communication standpoint, who they should be working with. So what guidance can you give to them?
Well, that's certainly one of the most important things is how you look out for your loved one. And because of our personal relationship, very well, it's interesting how I've done this professionally for years. I went through 10 years of Alzheimer's with my own dad, and it really gave me a lot of insight into how difficult this all is because I was armed with all of this knowledge, and I still had to make sure the right things were going on. And it really gave me a lot of insight, no matter how long you do something, into what clients go through and the level of stress and worry. So I hope I can impart a few. I know I can impart a few good pointers that everybody should go through. And I just want to quickly, as I've watched the work you've done progress, commend you for this, because it's just going to become more and more important, and the more information people have on any complex subject, and so one as important as this is valuable. So what I could tell you is, as you know, when we talked, I made up the long title of How Family Members Should Interact with Long-Term Care Ownership and Staff in Order to Ensure Best Outcomes for Their Loved Ones. And that's exactly what we all want to do, is ensure the best outcomes. So the first thing I wanted to bring up is most people, of course, do a little research before they're placing their loved ones, but a lot of times there's that situation where no one was thinking that way, and there's a stroke, and the person goes in the hospital, and then they immediately have to go somewhere, and you didn't even get a chance to do the research. So obviously, the more research you could do in advance, the comments I'm going to make now apply, but even if it's a last-minute issue, they still apply, which is essentially wherever your loved one ends up, the first thing you want to do after you've met with the admissions person and they've given you the tour, which of course is their best face, and who can blame them for that, but right. They're just giving you their best face. Then you really want to talk to the people who are in charge. So as we know, there's all kinds of facilities. There's big skilled nursing facilities, more and more that are publicly traded, and it's about real estate, and they're giant corporations. So this applies the most to those places. Then there's residential care facilities for the elderly, which we all call boarding cares more.
Yeah,
and they're a lower level of care. Skilled
Sandy,
nursing, let's remember, is 24 hours, 365 days a year.
Right, Sandy, I just want to let our listeners know that in California, the state calls them boarding cares. There are different names throughout the country, those that do have smaller care homes. So for those of you in other areas, it might be called residential care homes, it may be called group homes, but in California, it's referred to as boarding care, which I think is a lousy name, but it is what it is.
And then, of course, there's the small assisted living facilities, which serve a great purpose. So I'm going to start at the top of the food chain, the big nursing homes, but this really applies to any facility and becomes easier the smaller they are. You want to immediately find out where the buck stops. who's in charge. And in the bigger places, there's always an administrator, and that's the person who has the most responsibility of the facility. They're usually not a healthcare professional. It's usually more of a business person. Sometimes they've been a nurse. They sit in an office mostly. They're not out on the halls or visiting residents or your loved ones as much, although the good ones do get to know people. So you want to sit in that office, and you want to talk to that person, and you want to eyeball them, and you want to let them know how you're looking out for your loved one, and you want to know who they are and understand what their philosophy is, how long they've been there. These things really matter, because if that position keeps turning over, that's a red flag for you. Like any situation is if important people keep leaving, then something is not going well at the place. So you really want to get to know them, and you want to do it in a way that you're not interrogating them. You want to make it friendly, and this is where my tips come in, I think, that really are helpful. Let them know you appreciate that it's a difficult job, because it is. Let them know you do understand that, and let them know that you understand that they're caught between wanting to give the best care and overseeing people and having personal relationships with the corporate pressures of what's usually home office. Somewhere else might be in a whole other state that they're sending numbers to every day of how many people are in the facility and how much money is going in and out and all of those business things. So you really want to reach them as my loved one is a person, right, and I'm a person, and you're a person, and we all want this to really go the best in a humane way. So it's really good to talk to them and let them know you're really paying attention. Ask them questions about the staff. Do they give the staff insurance? Do they give them benefits? What's their turnover like? What kind of training do they do? They'll appreciate that you're someone and that they're going to have to make sure they're paying more attention for. And I hate to put it that way, because it's between your loved one and other people's loved ones, and a lot of people don't have anybody advocating for them. So you really have to advocate, and your person will get more attention that way. There's no doubt about it.
You know, you bring up a great point that I think people need to realize is obviously they want to have the best care for their loved one, and in most cases they want the best care at the lowest rate. You know, because it get expensive, but it does go hand in hand. So if you do have a location that provides healthcare insurance, that has a whole, quite a bit of training, even much more than the average, low staff turnover because of all the benefits they do get, and good management, those places could be more expensive. And that, could be. And you bring up a very good point. The only thing I could say about expense, which is heartbreaking since I've seen every situation, every socioeconomic, every type of family culturally, is all you could do is spend as much as you can afford, obviously. So I can't lie. If you're on Medi-Cal at a nursing home, you're not going to get the same kind of treatment as if you're on private pay in a small assisted living. But all of these things still apply. All you're trying to do is do the best you can with the situation you're in. No matter what the situation is, you can meet these people. Similarly, I talked about the administrator. Then you have a person called the director of nursing in the bigger place, and that's the person who really directs the nursing staff and the certified nursing aides or the aides in smaller places, and they're the people who are really doing the care. So you care about how they're being managed and how long they've been there and how they've been treated, and it filters all the way down. And I'm always surprised because people are under so much stress caring for their loved ones and trying to max out their visits, how rarely people even know the names of some of the caregivers. So I encourage everybody to take a moment and talk to them as people, show a little interest in them. Oh, where are you from, and how'd you choose this kind of work? And I really appreciate you do this work. I know it's hard, and I don't say all this as sugarcoating. I really mean this. People generally who go into these jobs have a caring heart.
because they're getting paid very little at the low end. They can, they could be flipping burgers or they could be doing retail. Right. But they really do have a caring heart, and a lot of them came at it from they had cared for one of their loved ones, a grandfather or a grandmother. And then they get a little jaded because they realize they can't give the care they want to give when there's not enough staff or they haven't enough training, and then they're just desperately trying to get through the day. So you really want to know who these people are and get into their core a little, the ones who are caring the most for your loved one, and get to know them a little, because it's the same as everything else in life. If you have some rapport with people, they're going to go a little harder for you. It's only human nature. And if they know a little bit more about your loved one, it's not just your demented, dad, like my dad near the end who couldn't talk as much. It's my dad that did all this in his life that I've told them about, that I've made him more of an interesting human being as he was. And then they might look for glimpses of that more. So I can't really stress how important it is to get to know who the key people are from the top to the bottom. If you're in a situation where you're going to the dining hall, so especially more in assisted living, where people are doing that a lot more than they are in nursing homes, where most of the residents can make the dining hall. Even the kitchen staff, you want to know who everybody is and be friendly, because they all matter. And when you're not there at 3 a.m., sometimes it's one of those people who are filling in, even though the facility's not telling you that if they had a call off and, whatever help they need. So everybody you could be kind to and try to have some kindness returned really does benefit you and your loved one.
And I think, and you mentioned it briefly, but I want to emphasize it, and this applies to, nursing or assisted living. You're usually dealing with a marketing or sales person at the beginning when you're, first making that decision. And they're usually people with good personalities and very outgoing, and but they have goals, right? I mean, they've got targets they have to hit. They're salespeople, and I think it's so important. I mean, let's say you really like that person. Don't make your decision solely on that person, right? I mean, you even before making the decision, you should ask, I'd like to meet the administrator or executive director in the case of assisted living, and meet, if my mom was going to be in this room, who are some of the caregivers that would be working with her? Can I meet them? I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking even ahead of time to meet the people. I know that, you're emphasizing, of course, to really get to know them once they're there, but get to know them ahead of time as well, right?
Yes, that's a very good point. And I'm saying all these things apply, that you absolutely want to do that if you have the opportunity to do that. The more research you could do in advance, the better. So this can all happen before your loved one would go to any facility is the best case scenario, where you'd be meeting these people, you'd be having a meal, because you hit the nail on the head. The marketing person is the marketing person. I'm not faulting them for being a good marketing person, but the truth is they know very little really about care and what goes on and what the training is of the people. They know, what the place looks like, what it costs. They know how to tour and show you their very nice courtyard and their activities, but they might not have been there that long. You always want to ask everybody how long they've been there, too.
Right.
So the more you could do in advance, the better. And if you have that kind of lead time, I don't expect everybody to become an elder neglect lawyer overnight, but just do a little research and use a few words that are going to become important words and let them know you have some idea what goes on. For instance, activities of daily living, which are all of our basic things. Brushing our teeth, going to the bathroom, showering, eating, the things that make us independent. Well, those are the things that our loved ones lose that causes them to end up needing help in a facility if they can't have one-on-one care at home. So you want to use that term. They call them ADLs. Mm-hmm. So you want to educate yourself on that and go, oh, and drop that term and let them know. And their education is called in-service in California. So you want to say, oh, and what kind of in-service do you do? And that just gives them an idea that maybe you have a nurse in the family or you've done your research, and it'll make them stand up a little straighter and concentrate more on what you're saying, because these people have a lot on their desk. They have a lot of emails. They have a lot of people knocking on their door. And like it or not, it's the American way. These care homes are big business. So they have a lot of business pressure, and often the business, unfortunately, and that's a lot of the focus of my practice, is the business takes place of that they should be providing good care before they're making money. I have no problem anybody making money, but like every job, you're supposed to do a good job before you make money.
Right, right. And no, those are just great points. So I'm gonna put you on the spot here. I got a question for you.
Sure.
And I'm not sure that this. I guess it just hit me. I'm just curious. I mean, you deal with a lot of, of course, with litigation and these issues when things don't go right. All right. I guess your thought, would you say that most situations occur when the family, most negative situations occur when the family's not as involved versus being more involved in the entire process? In other words, do you run into more situations where you end up in a lawsuit or some sort of litigation of some sort when the family's kind of going, hey, it's their job to take care of my dad, or my mom, and I don't have time to deal with it, and they maybe once in a month stop by? Or is there any consistent? I mean, I'm just curious your thought on that.
It's a really good question, Frank, and I'm thinking you and I have probably talked about this over time, and I don't want to depress the radio listeners out there. It's a beautiful, cruel world, I always say, but there's plenty of beauty as well.
Right.
So the sad part of that, which hit me when I started doing this practice, funny enough, that case you cited, Delaney v. Baker, when I was a very young lawyer, we're going back to 1993, that Ms. Delaney walked in my office, and it hasn't changed that much since then. She was very involved with what happened, and bad things still happened. And ever since then, what's been chilling for me is you have to realize, I only handle cases where the family was involved. Otherwise, they wouldn't know as much what happened,
True.
And they wouldn't have the wherewithal and the anger to seek justice. And I can't tell you how many people sit in my office compared to normal, what I call money law, and say, I just don't want this to happen to anybody else.
Right.
It's money still always permeates all this, and obviously I do it for a living, but out of all the areas of law I've handled, people really come into the office more because they just can't let what happened go by, and they're so appalled. So sadly, the short answer to your question is no. I think that even worse things are happening to people who don't have advocates, because
Right.
I'm only hearing about bad stories from people who are in there begging the nursing home to do something different, or on the tail of the assisted living owner and saying, look, there's not enough people here, or you're not monitoring my loved one enough, like you said, or you're not turning on the alarm so they keep falling, or whatever the issue is. I only have people show up in my office who have the story about what happened. So it's a little chilling to me what must be going on for everybody else who doesn't have the advocate.
Right. Yeah, no, that's, what? Now that you say that, it makes sense. Makes total sense. So, we have a couple minutes left. If there's anything that you could really leave our listeners with, what would that be?
Well, one, I better really be fast. I'm amazed at how fast this goes by, the little outline I wrote to tell people. So I guess is the things I said, and visiting, of course, showing up matters. It's better to show up less often for 15 minutes than just do your 3-hour visit once a week. Mm-hmm. The more you show up, the more you know the people. Look at the chart a little. try to use the doctor as your advocate. The more you're involved, the more you're helping to ensure that your loved one will get better care. And I wish everybody the best on that journey, because I know it's exhausting, but I also know that when your loved one finally passes, if you do all that, you'll know you did all you could and you'll feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great point. I know that the generation that we're having to care for, the generation that's in their 80s, 90s, etc. I think that generation had more of a trust with the doctor. It's like whatever the doctor says, we'll do. Well, I think the boomer generation, our generation, is like more questioning. They question everything, and I think that's a good thing, though, right? I think that's a good thing.
That's, with this minute or two we have left, that's a super important point that was on my outline, because I call it medicine by facts. The doctor rarely goes to these facilities. They're just faxing the doctor what they need or want. So you really do have to advocate, and if you want the doctor to see your loved one, you need to be on them, you need to question them. Very important.
Right. No, listen, this is great information, and of course we're going to have you back. I know you're a busy guy, and I always bug you, come on, we got to do a show, and so I look forward to that, because there's always so much to discuss. And if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, your firm, how would they go about doing that, Sandy?
Well, as you said, I have a website, Horowitz, my name, HOROWITZ, Elder Law, all one word, .com, and that basically, there's some really good information on there for people to follow up who are interested in the things I'm saying. There's plenty of information on my website and all my contact information and about staff, etc.
Great. Sanford Horowitz, and it was great information. We kind of took a little bit of a different approach here, and I think it was well worthwhile. So I want to thank you so much, and thanks for joining us, and thank you all for joining us out there. And you can listen to all the other shows as well. Again, you could go to agingboomers.com. You could download the app on your phones. You could go to iTunes. Lots of different ways. So thanks so much. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Thank you.